Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Card Discussion, where I, your humble host Rothalos, will be bringing you obscure cards to discuss. Now the purpose of this show is not to highlight game-breakingly amazing cards, but more to discuss under or never played cards, and give them a little bit of exposure. Also, I'd like to discuss why a card's not or should be played. Everyone will be allowed to voice their opinions, and hopefully it'll make us all better duelists. In this episode, I'll be bringing you a card that has zero play and no one talks about it. And perhaps that's for a reason. But either way, I think it's got some potential. Gravity Collapse received an American release in the booster pack Starstrike Blast as a rare. This counter trap featured an impressive effect, but at a heavy cost. You activate it by tributing one synchro monster you control when your opponent summons a monster to negate the summon and destroy that monster. Then after that, your opponent can't summon another monster. This effect can absolutely break combos and leave your opponent very vulnerable, as well as create a huge opening for you to take advantage of. So the effect is good, but what about that nasty cost? What kind of deck could possibly sacrifice synchro monsters like that? Well, for one, there's Formula Monarchs. Let's take a look at a possible Monarch field. Let's say you've recently removed their last monster and they've got nothing going on up there. Now, you could take your Formula Synchron and your Monarch and Synchro Summon Stardust Dragon. But instead, why don't we just keep our 2400 beat stick and set Gravity Collapse? Next turn they expect, well, that's a pretty weak field, let's try to fight back. They summon a card like Junk Synchron, you activate Gravity Collapse, tribute Formula Synchron, which wasn't worth a whole lot anyway, get rid of Junk Synchron and they've got nothing. They're still completely open, which leaves you on your next turn to take a direct 2400 attack. Many decks can afford to lose a Synchro monster for a powerful effect. Dragoonides, for example, often spam Stardust Dragon, which is a viable target, and it's usually just going to be replaced on the next turn anyway. That's pretty much what they do. So losing one, it can be worth it. Hell, Tech Genis, their entire point is just summoning synchro monsters all the time. As one final thing, it's a counter trap and it negates, which means that your opponent's never going to get to call priority on this. You can drop it on a Trishula, you can drop it on pretty much anything that's going to ruin you. Actually, Trishula would be a really good selection, because then she's just going to remove from play your Stardust Dragon or whatever anyway. However, now that we've discussed the positives, we gotta discuss the negatives. This card can be kinda risky. In the earlier discussed Formula Monarchs, if your opponent chooses to set a monster, or just not summon at all and just put a bunch of back row, you've ruined your Treeborn combo. So it probably wouldn't be the best in Monarchs anyway, unless you're really, really good. Paying with a big monster like Stardust on the field is very rarely worth it, I've seemed to notice. And of course, there's always the possibility that they'll activate Trap, Stun, or Giant Trinity before they summon anyway, so it may end up just not being worth it at all. The counterpoint to it being a counter trap is the fact that, well, it's a counter trap. It entirely relies on your opponent falling into your trap, and as we all know, enemy duelists are notoriously bad at doing what we want them to. There's always the chance that they may never even stumble into your little trap, and if they do, it might not even matter at that point. So that's Gravity Collapse. Is it a hidden gem, or does its heavy and specific cost make it unplayable? Give your opinions and ideas for the card in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe for more card discussion. For Team Kokoraime, I am Rothalos, and I'm out.